Recording. And we are live. Back in full effect. The RINO podcast with you on this fabulously rainy Sunday morning here from Massachusetts. Oh, crap, that coffee's hot. Birthplace of American liberty. And the one true source of all your political needs, both nationally and locally. The RINO podcast. Welcome, Caitlin. How was your time off?
It was really good. I went to Hawaii. First time.
Ooh la la.
And flying there from Boston, flying to Hawaii from Boston was not as bad as coming back.
Is that because the way the Earth spins?
Maybe.
I think because, right, when you're flying west, west is coming to you. And when you're flying east, east is going away from you. So it literally takes longer. You have to catch up to the speed of the Earth. Unless you're Owen Benjamin and the Earth is flat and not spinning, that freak.
Does he really think that
no, he's insane.
Who is that basketball player that thinks the Earth is flat?
Kyrie Irving. He's another moron, absolute moron. And it makes sense that nobody else likes him in the NBA, and he's gone through 5 NBA teams, and he phenomenal player. But it's a team sport, and if your team doesn't like you, of course, if you believe in flat Earth, and I think the thing is, he didn't play for Brooklyn when they wanted him to get vaccinated, which I respect. But there's this weird conspiracy Venn diagram with people who are flat earthers. Over some other kooky, and he said some anti-Semitic stuff too, or was linking to some of those videos Kyrie Irving did. Anyway,
but Hawaii was great.
Quick tweet. This is cup of coffee number 3. I'm starting.
Yeah, no, Hawaii was great. I think the best thing that we did was on the Big Island, Hawaii. We went to the summit of Mauna Kea, which is their largest mountain, which is a dormant volcano. And up on top of there is all of these observatories. And so, because you can drive all the way up there.
Okay.
There's all of these from different countries or like university, there's all these observatories. And so what they do is they try to get photographs into deep space because there's not a lot of light pollution on Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
And so they get clearer pictures, and that was pretty cool. So like we also did stargazing, and we didn't stay up there long enough to see the Milky Way. But if you were like, I think there's a few houses that are like up there on that mountain where like if you go out at like 4:30 in the morning, you can see the Milky Way up there.
Wow. I'd like to do that. That would be worth it for the trip. We have a dog, and before she comes in for the night, take her out to do her business. And there's been the past few months, clear skies lately at night. And I just stare up at the sky. Venus has been so bright lately.
You could see, so like the first star that you could really see when the sun went down. So like when we went up there, we were afraid there was going to be a lot of like cloud cover because it's very humid in Hawaii, and the clouds are very low. Like you go above the cloud line in Mauna Kea. And so like when the sun went down, all of the clouds went away, and the first star that you see is actually Venus.
Right. Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. That would be worth the trip alone. I mean, to go out to Hawaii is a haul. I would do it.
Again, the flight there, if you actually get a direct flight, the direct flights I have found are actually better than like having to do like a layover anywhere. When we came back, we flew United out of Kauai. I'm sorry if I mispronounce this. Kauai. We flew United on the way out, and 2 5-hour flights was fucking terrible. Like it was so awful. The first one I actually had, I was in the middle. That was being in the middle for me is really bad. Like I need an aisle seat when I fly because I'm so tall, and
Same.
Well, you get it. You're taller than I am.
Yeah.
And so tall people have the worst time in the window or in the middle, because like you're sitting there and your knees are up in your chest practically, and you can't ever put down the little desk to have like a, the drink that they give you comfortably. And it's like,
I've made a promise to myself, and I will keep this promise. It hasn't come up since COVID, but I've sort of started to stick to it before COVID. Is any flight over 4 hours, I'm going business class or first class. Just full stop.
oh,
Have to
good.
do it.
Yeah.
Have to do it. I don't care. It is worth the money. Especially, we're making vacation plans. Europe. Hawaii's way down on the list for me as far as to go.
Where are you going? Where do you want to go in Europe?
Italy.
Oh my gosh! So we're going to Italy in August. I didn't tell you this.
I'm not going in the middle of summer. No, I want to go in like March, April, or maybe late fall, something like that. But where it's just cooler and I'm not sweating. They don't have air conditioning a lot in Europe, so I'm just not going to deal with that. But this is why God bless America. But that's
one of the things we're searching for places to stay right now. So like, you all know, I posted this on my Twitter when COVID happened. Right before COVID happened, we found these flights to Rome that were like $400 a piece.
Yeah.
It was like one way, and we bought them because we didn't know what was going on with COVID, and we didn't know it was going to go to Italy and all this other stuff. So anyway, we bought them. We planned this trip, and then we couldn't go because of COVID. And so now we're finally getting back. But one of the things that I'm looking for with hotels and Airbnbs and all the other stuff is air conditioning.
A smart move. I'm going to give you another little tip here. And we'll get into the episode stuff in a second, people. Just calm down. Caitlin and I have very important things to talk about here. There's an airline called La Compagnie. All right?
Oh, okay.
It is a purely business class airline. It's all business class. One-way tickets around $1,300 to $1,800 one way. And it flies direct. It only flies direct out of Newark right now. But hear me out. Go there. Go to Italy. Whatever, cheap flight. Whatever you can get. Buy a one-way from, I want to say Rome and Milan, back to Newark. Long flight. Direct. Take the train back up to Boston, rent a car back up to Boston, like spend the night, relax. But that flight home for business class is going to be 1,000% worth it. Now you can fly business class on any or first class on any other airline too, but La Compagnie, check it out.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
Well, moving on from our European dreams, you're gonna have to text me that. Do we want to move?
Yeah, let's move on. All right. I have a personal bone to pick with Steven Crowder.
Okay, well, you go ahead, because he's very unfunny to me.
He's always been unfunny. He's never been fucking funny. Never. He is not funny. He has set up other, like when he's owned the libs on a college campus, he's set them up to be funny. He's made them look funny, but he himself is actually not funny. And that crushes him. That crushes his soul, right? Because at some level, he knows that he is the... You might not get this reference, Caitlin. He is the Opie of the Opie and Anthony show. He doesn't actually have, like, the real talent except to tweak people, to poke at them. And there's a comedian who I'm a big fan of. His name is Dave Landau.
Oh, he used to be on that show, right?
I liked Dave Landau well before he was on Crowder, and I went to see Dave Landau live do stand-up. Actually, he performed a few years ago, before COVID in Cambridge. Hilarious, just a naturally funny, great comedian, and like a good guy, like not a scumbag. And to hear, I saw an interview with,
and you can kind of tell who. Like, the thing is like, I don't think people realize, like, within the conservative sphere with like with politicians and comedians, you can tell who's an asshole. Like, I feel like Crowder comes off like a dick. Like, like in a personal way. Like, like people hate Donald Trump. I've heard that he's personally nice when you meet him. like he is personable.
Right.
Okay. Like with Joe Biden, I've heard that everything's an act. Like you know this about people. And so like when you meet like comedians, Dave Landau seems like a genuine guy.
He is. I met him. I've had pictures with him. Took a picture with him after the show. Super nice guy. So he had this rule when he was on as third mic, which he should really be first or second mic on any show. And by the way, Dave Landau's moving to the Blaze, which is great. Good for him.
Oh, good for him.
And still doing stand up, which go see him live. He's very, very, very funny live. Crowder had this rule. He had a don't talk light. Like literally, when Steven's saying something real profound or interesting, nobody else was allowed to speak. So there was a don't talk light, like there's an on-air light outside of a radio studio, like that kind of crap. They did rehearsals for his show. Now the idea,
not like run through, but like a run through of like the topics. Like you and I run through our topic. This is
but we say what we're going to cover. We don't rehearse. We don't rehearse because it's unnatural. The conversation that we have, why we're the #1 podcast in Massachusetts politics, is because we have a natural way of speaking and conversation. You don't rehearse the conversation. When you interview somebody, you don't rehearse the interview. When you're on a podcast or on an internet-based show, it's what makes them better than the crappy corporate press where they go out with their mundane talking points. It's superior. Crowder never got this. There was this weird blend of like conservative activist but wanted to be funny, and their thing is he really desperately wanted to be in entertainment, but his viewpoints prevented that from taking place, and he never really dedicated himself to becoming a true stand-up comedian. That could have happened. It's not going to happen now. And then after the whole thing with Landau and his show, he's negotiating with the Daily Wire, and then records Jeremy Boring, right?
The whole timeline of like what Crowder's drama has been like in the last 6 months, because like honestly, the Daily Wire stuff is like hilarious. He's such a tease. Like
it's so it is sleazy. It's sleazy. It's babyish. Right? I think he's your age. I think he's a millennial. Right?
He's my age.
Yeah.
I think he's like a year. I think he's like a year older than me.
Okay. Yeah. He's a whiny millennial. There's been so many things now with his soon-to-be ex-wife, and that video I saw last week of them arguing.
Did you watch the entire thing?
I watched like the 3-minute clip. It actually didn't seem that bad. I mean, it seems sort of silly. Somebody brought up a point. It's like, why don't they have 2 cars if they're arguing about who's taking the car? Like, he has enough money for 2 cars, but whatever. I won't fault him too much because the video ends and then like just on text on the video says, oh, he was then accused of abusing her or something like that. And I'm like, whoa, hang on here. That did not look like some setup for abuse. It's just like there are levels to this thing, and not to give him any credit, but now he's going to like release mental health records and release this or that. It's just like, go, buddy, stop. Like,
okay. So first of all, with the Daily Wire thing, I think what they did was kind of shitty. Like they tried to bring him on. Like at that point, he was a huge talent, right? Like he was leaving the Blaze. He could have negotiated a really good contract with the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire is like really profitable. They have they're creating something. He could have negotiated whatever, but I guess he had a problem with like their strike system and demonetization issue with YouTube.
Right. Well, Crowder's been demonetized a bunch of times on YouTube and the other socials. They definitely manipulated stuff with his channels, and there were penalties if that happened, right? So it's a reasonable point of negotiation, but it's back and forth. But if you want to be on a platform like the Daily Wire, they have to make money. So the outreach, your reach is what makes makes you profitable. How many people are putting on eyeballs? So if you have 1 million subscribers on YouTube and get 1 million hits a day, and suddenly you say something that pisses YouTube off for whatever reason, and that goes down to 20,000 or 0, yeah, the Daily Wire invests a lot of money in that. They're expecting a return on the investment. It's just business. I get that. But recording a guy after you know the deal has gone south and then putting that out and the recording doesn't even really say anything, it's just shitty, scummy behavior. It's like, ooh, look, I gotcha. I recorded this. It's like, hey, man, you don't, the fact that he doesn't understand that the recording and doing the recording, how that looks to other people means you're off. There's something off about you. But it's a shame.
So to get past that, right? Like I was on actually team Daily Wire here, where it's like, no, like they have to make money, that you're negotiating with them. You can either join them or not join them, right? Make your decision. I think that he was a little bit shady on that. And that's my personal opinion on it. And then what was it, like a week and a half ago, where Crowder came out? Was it Crowder who came out? And people have been like kind of making these comments about Crowder's divorce, like on Twitter. And I was like, oh, he might be getting divorced. And I didn't think anything of it because the people who were saying it is not people I would consider good sources. And so they were right. He's been getting divorced for like the last year and a half. And I guess he came out because maybe Candace Owens said something or like implied it like in January. And he's like, they're extorting me. And I don't think he understands what the word extortion means, because in order to extort somebody, they have to have damning evidence on you and want something in return. And I don't think Candace Owens really wants something in return from you. And so I didn't really understand his usage of that. But then I think we got this video, this ring video of their Crowder and his wife's interaction, because he made that video where it talked about like no abuse, no infidelity, all this other stuff. And then it's like, no, you're a dick. Like, and here's the ring video to prove that you're kind of a dick. Like the video that came out where he was talking about this is like, in Texas, we have no fault divorce. So my wife could just divorce me over nothing and all this other stuff. And it's like, I think there's a reason why she's divorcing you, dude. Like, you're a dick.
Also, I mean, nobody knows the full context of it except for the two of them. Okay. And watching that one specific video was, I sort of saw both sides of it, right? I mean, he was being a dick, but also she had some accountability there too, and I don't know the full context of it, but I'm more being a married man, I'm more sympathetic to both sides of the equation than just somebody just shitting on Crowder for that. Like, because here's my problem with it. It's like you jump from like that one clip to talking about like the name, like the word abuse is thrown around. It's like, okay, that's a serious charge. When you throw that word around, that's a serious charge. And then you get, it was emotional abuse, not physical. And then you have to say, okay, emotional abuse, like, what does that mean? Well, they yelled or said something you didn't like. You mean an argument, like you mean a normal argument husbands and wives have, that you and Mr. Caitlin have, that me and my wife have, that everybody has. Like, there's a far cry from like normal levels of marriage.
Okay. So, like, I'm gonna interject. Him yelling at his 8-month pregnant wife with twins, in the way that he did, was completely inappropriate. There is no reason why you should be yelling at a pregnant woman in that way, even if you are in a marriage and all the other stuff. The way that he demeaned her was completely derogatory, and it was embarrassing for him. It was embarrassing for her. Like, making her go do groceries at 8 months pregnant with twins.
I think he just had surgery. Wait, time out. I think he just had surgery. No?
I think so.
I thought the whole reason he couldn't leave the house was because he had that chest surgery.
You mean his elective surgery he had when his wife was pregnant? That's weird, Jeff. Like
I didn't think that was elective. I thought he had a heart condition. That's what he said, unless he's lying.
Well, he could be lying. Like, we don't know.
Okay, so this is interesting.
Why elective surgery while your wife is pregnant with twins seems strange to me. But only having one car is also strange because he says that he can't go places if she's going to groceries. Like that's
the weirdest part. Honestly, of all this thing, like you and I could go back and forth. Like, was it a heart condition that he had to get the surgery? Which is what I was under that impression. Not an elective surgery. He had a heart condition where his chest was coming in on itself.
Well, he's got the sunken chest thing. So like that happens. You eventually have to get it corrected if it starts moving, I guess. And so that's fine. Like that is fine. But all reports that I read was that it was elective surgery at that point.
All right, we'll have to follow up on this.
But at the same time, you have one car and you're screaming that you can't go anywhere because you have one car.
He's a wealthy guy. Like I'm call me on the upper end of middle class.
He had a pool in the background. I know how much personal pools cost in people's backyards and how much you have to spend on them. I know how much these cost. If you have a pool, you can afford a fucking second car. Come on.
That's bizarre to me. But anyway, I mean, look, this matters. I know we're talking about it like who the fuck cares in the grand scheme of thing about Steven Crowder. Well, it matters in our ecosystem. Because
where people are talking about it. I mean, like he has a massive following. Like for whatever I don't like Steven Crowder. I think that he's very unfunny. People find him funny. Like they find his humor hilarious, and that's fine. Like, but I think that all of this stuff coming out, and I think the latest video where he like kind of threatens his wife or ex-wife with revealing her medical information like to the public. Like he is getting ripped on Twitter. He's getting ripped on I was looking at Instagram straight up like, holy shit, dude, back down.
I think this matters in the sense that on the right, for better or for worse, I know it's a double standard and it's not fair. We, the whole ecosystem of people on the right, have to be better, have to have morals, and can't act like complete pieces of shit to put our words out there, right? We have to be better. We just have to. One, because we have the moral high ground in general with policy and culture and all the things that we're discussing. But there are people who are more moral, right? And the left will always lie and paint those moral people as bad people. That's to be expected. But when you give
they are bad people, right? Because they expect the left to behave in a normal moral fashion and they don't want to. Like that's the reason why.
Yeah. And leads us into the next topic, which I think is Tucker.
Tucker Carlson.
Which for whether you dislike Tucker, like Tucker, agree with Tucker or not,
years.
What's that?
Tucker's had a lot of hats over the years. He's been in the conservative movement for a long time. He's played a lot of roles. He's had a lot of different takes. He's definitely had an evolution over time. I mean, he's been around, and he came to Fox, and he was their biggest pull on primetime.
And to the earlier point, though, I haven't heard much that people have said Tucker's like a bad guy. Contrary to the point, people have said he's a really good guy, and I've met him. I met him briefly years ago. Took a picture with him and stuff, and I'll have to find that. It's on a hard drive somewhere. But nice guy, super friendly. Actually took time to talk to me for a minute, like more than just a picture.
I have only heard personally good things about Tucker Carlson. I think that dudes on the background, sorry, Jeff, I think men on the background shoot shit a lot. And we're not going to pretend that women don't shoot shit too, because I'm a woman and we definitely shoot a lot of shit about men. So I can confirm that happens. You literally see it on Instagram all the time. Call Her Daddy is literally a podcast of women shooting shit. And so talking about sex and all this other stuff. Okay. So like right now, Tucker is going through a lawsuit. We all thought it had to do with the Dominion lawsuit where Fox, what was it, like $700 billion had to pay Dominion?
Yeah, 780, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's a lot of money. I'm sure Rupert Murdoch was like shitting a brick. And so, and if anybody knows about like the Murdoch family, they own News Corp, which owns Fox News, Wall Street Journal. What's the one out of the UK?
Sky News, New York Post, New York Post, right?
Sky News is in the UK and Australia, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
And so Rupert Murdoch is your basic normie Republican when it comes to these things. I guess I saw reporting that, and what I considered, okay, so he has one liberal son named James that did not end up succeeding him in running these companies. That is a huge lib, and he contributes. I think his wife works for the Clinton Foundation or something, and they're big liberals. And he has another son named Lachlan who succeeded him in running these news companies. I thought Lachlan was a normie moderate from what I read, but then I also read a piece that said Lachlan was closer to Tucker Carlson in his views, which I thought was interesting. Because I hadn't read that before. I thought he was just a moderate, business type of Republican. But then as the news started coming out, I think it was the LA Times reported that Tucker Carlson is going through litigation with Fox News over some, I think, gender harassment lawsuit with a producer. And a lot of information is coming out.
Was that okay. So that the notice the language there, right? Not sexual harassment, right? Gender harassment. All right, what does that mean? Tell me what that really means.
I don't think sexual harassment, because Tucker Carlson's been married for a long time. He's actually pretty. You can see pictures of him with his wife. He's like pretty attached to.
He's not Bill O'Reilly. He's not Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah, he is a good family man. You can say a lot of things about Tucker, but that is absolutely for sure. And he's also very concerned about his family's safety. In the past, they're all like, Tucker Carlson should run for political office. And I don't think Tucker Carlson is interested in that at all, based on the safety of his family. Yeah. So, but we're getting into like what Rupert Murdoch was getting to. So apparently, this is what I have read. Apparently, Rupert Murdoch was dating this one woman, and she loves Tucker Carlson, and she watched she just, I guess, called him some type of messiah, or like some religious overtones, I'm sorry. And Rupert Murdoch just flat out broke up with her. Apparently he's really hard.
I've never heard this. Okay. Yeah.
Broke up with her. And then I guess Tucker, there was a heritage conference, I think last week or something like that.
I watched the speech. It was very good.
Apparently he saw that, got in touch with Lachlan, and that Friday they fired Tucker Carlson.
So it had nothing to do with, I mean, that's more logical, I guess, or emotional. So, I don't know what the truth is, right? It's like,
Murdoch doesn't like the deification of these figures anymore. That's what I think we're getting to.
So it's an interesting point, right? You counter that with the Dominion lawsuit, Dominion, if you go back to the record, Tucker was very, very careful when the whole...
he was actually pretty good on it, because he called out the bullshit.
Yes, he did. From Giuliani and Sidney Powell. He was like... I remember watching that episode, because it was like all around this time. He's like, please come on to the show.
If I remember correctly. Yeah. I think if I remember right, when all of that was going down, I remember when he said it, I was like, holy shit. And he invited all these people on his show, and they weren't going to go on.
Correct.
And so I was actually kind of shocked that he didn't. And I believe people were complaining about him when that was happening. They're like, Tucker's going down some path, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, he's right. Like,
he was
I mean,
absolutely right. He was absolutely right. And it was the same thing that I was thinking when it was taking place. Sidney Powell, at some press conferences, they stole 2 million votes. I remember going, oh, wow, that seems like a lot. You better have the goods. Of course, there were no goods. There was no Kraken. It didn't exist,
just like Carrie Lake nowadays,
Yeah.
guys. It's
And let me say this, like I appreciate Tucker Carlson for his views because he does represent a significant chunk of the right and populism itself. I disagree with him on a whole bunch of stuff, especially now foreign policy and Russia and Ukraine and all kinds of stuff that, have a debate about it. But it never smelled right a couple weeks ago, or I guess a week ago, when they got rid of him, that it was because of Dominion, because Dominion was directly the lawsuit was about the election stuff, and he was pretty good on that. So to ask for his head on a silver platter for that lawsuit didn't square necessarally. What you just explained to me with Rupert and the ex-girlfriend, who knows how true it is, but it makes more sense than anything else. And
if it had to be over the Dominion case, right, you'd be getting rid of Sean Hannity.
Correct. You'd be getting rid of Janine Pirro and a couple of the others on there who actually Maria Bartiromo. I think Maria Bartiromo was.
You can't get rid of anybody on the 5. The 5 is a popular show too, right? Like,
you can get rid of everybody. You can get rid of everybody. Maybe sans Gutfeld on the 5. I mean, like, it's the 5. They rotate. They get Eric Bowling. Jesse Waters is absolute moron. He
oh my God,
he's a blithering idiot. He's a blithering.
So,
idiot.
like, if we're talking replacements for Tucker,
there's no replacing Tucker.
Laura Ingraham makes me want to never watch Fox again. Look, Jesse Waters is a fucking idiot. Like, I've watched 5 minutes of Jesse Waters and it made me lose brain cells.
That's an accurate assessment.
It's so bad. I don't know what talent they're ever going. And the thing is Tucker's going to land, right? Like, he'll land.
Here's where I see it going. And honestly, I thought about this the other day when the video came out. This is one more nail in the coffin of cable corporate news, which has sucked for a long time. But it's just, they're going to start losing money. Nobody watches it. You have to be 65 or older to even turn it on. You don't watch cable news. I don't watch cable news. It maybe we'll catch a Tucker monologue or somebody dunking on a clip of Don Lemon on Twitter, but we don't actually turn on
Don Lemon in a little bit too. We have to kind of discuss.
I don't know. We got a lot to cover because we've been off for so long. But let's finish up with Tucker first, and then we'll see if we can squeeze a lemon. Sorry. Tucker was probably the only thing worth watching. Now, he put the video out this week.
And I didn't even agree with Tucker on everything. Like,
I'd say I over the past few years, it's probably went from like 10 to 15 to 20% or 30% where I'm disagreeing with him.
But he's entertaining. Like, the thing is, like, he filled a void after Bill O'Reilly left. I loved Bill O'Reilly. I actually used to watch Bill O'Reilly when I had the chance in college, because Bill O'Reilly was good on Fox News. And
it was the only thing. Bill
O'Reilly was also very against the election conspiracy theories.
Yeah. So Tucker puts out the 2-minute video, just a quick little thing. It got 40 million impressions and 15 million views. Tucker has 6 million followers on Twitter. 6 million. That's twice his Fox News audience. He interviewed Elon Musk a few months ago. The natural place for him to wind up is right here where you're watching this broadcast live on Twitter. Create a show on Twitter just for you. If Musk truly believes in free speech, which I think he does, he's demonstrated that. Why would you go to Rumble? Why would you create your own platform? Why would you even go to The Blaze or Daily Wire? Why would you? There's no reason. Just and if some reason in 3 years, if Twitter takes a weird turn, whatever. I mean, you adapt, but
It
then
almost
that
seems like he could make a go like a how can I say this? If he wanted to, like he created the Daily Caller, right? He could go back to that and make it actually a more of a media platform if he wanted
then
to.
he's got to run it. You know what I mean? It's like,
Well, no, technically no. Like Ben Shapiro does not run the Daily Wire anymore. He does not do that.
that's true. Yeah,
So like
you hire
he
somebody.
could
You make enough money, and you hire somebody. Yeah.
yeah, you hire your crew. Like Tucker's got a shit ton of money. Um
But does he want to
he could do
spend? Does he
really
want to spend it on a venture that could lose it? You know, you start a company and start paying
well.
people with your own
It's
money.
not even that. Like you have to ensure that it's profitable, but you
Yeah.
also have to pay legal teams in
He
order to protect your
he could the low bar for entry is he just hires his producing team. He was recording out of his home in Maine and his home in Florida for when he was doing the Fox show. There was occasionally did that in studio thing on Fox Nation, which I think is still like a studio he built out. It's all right there. You hire a few producers, and Elon just announced that just you can either subscription per article, which was a great model. I had that idea years ago. Even Evan Lips, I brought that idea to Evan Lips of subscribe buying an article off of Twitter. But also you can subscribe to somebody's Twitter handle. You have ad revenue now on Twitter. The model exists perfectly for him to just start pushing it on Twitter. Maybe, I don't know, maybe YouTube, but just put it on Twitter.
yeah.
It's get you right there. The only thing that would be like if they fired him and he has some non-compete clause and he can't do X, Y, and Z, maybe. But but they have to pay him for those things to happen. If Fox News stops paying him or he doesn't take the money, then you can fight it out with lawyers and be like, no, I'm going right over to where I want because you have no case.
Well, I think they just fired him. Did they have to pay out his contract?
It depends what was in the contract. But one thing for sure, you can't enforce a non-compete if you fire. If he leaves of his own free will, you can enforce a non-compete.
I'm fairly certain that Tucker has this like crazy Fox News. I thought he had like this really crazy Fox News contract that was different than the other
Probably,
posts.
yeah. Probably.
That would to me.
So, all right, now on to the idiocy of the week. More idiocy from. We'll blow through this one because I'm so sick of Elizabeth Warren and Ayanna Pressley and Ed Markey and our moronic Massachusetts delegation arguing for things that shouldn't be, don't exist. And
they're gearing up for 2024. I mean, like
I know, but it's just brain dead. It's brain dead, insane leftist wish lists. So this week they were pushing packing the Supreme Court, holding judges accountable, all because they've lost elections and didn't get the judges they want, and they want to remake the Supreme Court. They don't care about justice.
You want to know what the real big issue here is that the Biden administration is like really fucking up judicial nominations right now. Have you kind of paid attention to this?
No.
It's like a big thing in the Senate. So we all know that Dick Durbin is head of the Senate Judiciary Committee and he's an asshole. And he's also a bad politician. So he's not getting through judicial nominations in the way that he wants to. But a part of that problem is because the Biden administration is very slow to nominate, right? And so you're seeing these lower court judges not getting through, these liberal lower court judges not getting through, partially because they're all freaks and they spent the Trump administration being online and being activists and like nutty. Like the thing is like I watch these hearings on them when I do in passing, and like literally it's like Republican senators pulling up their tweet, posting it up, and it's like, please explain why you said this, and they have no ability to comment on it because it's what they're saying is crazy. Yeah. But at the same time, Biden is just not nominating people, and one of the reasons why is they're probably vetting these people, and their social medias are filled with crap.
They're bonkers.
So,
all the judges on the left are absolutely out of their mind. They're
so what Elizabeth Warren is doing is trying to go into and saying we need to hold these Supreme Court justices accountable to the American public, blah blah blah, and like all of her pack the Supreme Court bullshit. And, Ed Markey follows along because he's a progressive idiot. And so, and he's actually dumb. Like,
no, he's a very dumb man. He's a very dumb man.
I've heard personally that when you meet him, like you're not going to be impressed with Ed Markey. And so
the funny thing is you see how this dynamic plays out. Ayanna wants that Senate seat. Okay, so Warren already announced her reelection for next year. That was and Ayanna endorsed, which was to scare off 2026. She's going right after Ed Markey. She's going to take him on. Now, Ayanna is utterly hateable, right? She's mean. She doesn't like people. She doesn't like white people. It's really, her racism comes through. It's gross. We need to move away from what she is espousing dramatically. And all her issues are just divisive. Everything. There is not one consensus issue she is in favor of. And she's come out, this is within the past week or two, it's not only been the judges and going after the Supreme Court. It's been the usual, her and Warren cancel student debt. And now somehow, I don't know how this came about, the Equal Rights Amendment. They want to resurrect the Equal Rights Amendment, which, I hate to break it to everybody, it's covered by the 14th Amendment, All citizens are treated equally under the law. Like, there's no reason to have the Equal Rights Amendment. If you're a citizen of this country, you're due the protections of the Constitution. It's bonkers. These Warren, Pressley, Markey are elected members of a legislative body, and they're going out and talking about how the president has the authority to cancel student debt. Like, no, actually, you have the authority to implement that terrible policy. It's maddening. It's maddening. And the local press won't say shit.
True. They're not going to say shit, right? Like, they like Ed Markey, they like Elizabeth Warren, they like Ayanna Pressley, they like Seth Moulton, they like all the Democrats because they're Democrats. And that's what Boston media is. And so they're not going to ever say, like, the thing is like, Congress has so much power, right? Like, that's one of the things that like people don't really want to acknowledge. So when Elizabeth Warren threatens to pack the Supreme Court, the packing of the Supreme Court starts in Congress. And so it's not the president can make a threat. That's what happened with FDR. That's what he did. He threatened them because he had Congress. So like, when he did it over, what was it, Social Security, they were going to, I guess the Supreme Court had an inkling that they were going to overturn, question the constitutionality of Social Security during the New Deal, correct? And so when they did that, FDR got an inkling of it, and he threatened them that he was going to pack the Supreme Court because he had Congress in his back pocket. So that's the executive leading Congress. Right. Congress has so much power. So, right, like, if you think Joe Biden is weak and you're Elizabeth Warren, why aren't you talking to Democratic senators? Well, they're afraid of re-election. So, like, and Dems with Trump on the ballot, or if Ron DeSantis is on the ballot, Dems are really scared. Yeah. If Trump is on the ballot, they're not afraid. Yeah. And so, but they will probably lose West Virginia, which is a seat that they need in order to get a majority. And they could potentially lose Ohio, which is Sherrod Brown. And Sherrod Brown, it's really funny, used to be kind of a mid-bencher for the Dems, used to be really loud about like, like union stuff and, very big in like labor policy and all this other stuff. Chuck Schumer has thrown that man into a basement. I have not heard a peep out of Sherrod Brown for over 2 years. And so it's pretty much told him to shut the fuck up. You're in a red state now. You need to keep quiet or you're going to lose re-election. And so they're trying to
decent strategy.
It works for Dems, right? Like, the thing is like in the midterms, we saw that Trumpy candidates lost more than won. And I don't count House seats. Come on, guys. Like, House seats are drawn in a way that Republicans are probably going to win. Democrats are going to win. That those maps are drawn that way. We lost a lot of swing districts that were supposed to be more red because of Trumpy candidates. And so I don't know what's going to happen. But yeah, I mean, like, I, everyone knows that we hate Elizabeth Warren. She just comes up with like a lot of cockamamie bullshit,
Yeah.
and you know, she
Where it's
she
packed.
wants to throw all this power onto the executive. She did this with what was it, the Consumer Protection Bureau or whatever. That ended up being completely unconstitutional. The structure of it that bypassed Congress, and then she literally just bypasses what Congress can actually do because she doesn't want to put in the work to promote her ideas.
Right. Well, like this is, and it's mind-boggling, the stupidity, because whether it's the Consumer Protection Bureau,
she is a bad politician, guys. Like even amongst Dem friends, like I literally am like, guys, she is a bad politician, and they like can't really say anything because they know that she is a bad politician.
Watching both the press and even Democrats have nothing except to talk about Trump. They have nothing to talk about except Trump. They can't defend Joe Biden. They can't.
I hate saying it like this, but Dems talking about Trump and considering how MAGA movement has like gone down in the polls and approvals, they can talk about that, right? But that's the only thing that they got. Like I was having this conversation the other day with Hakeem Jeffries is the minority leader of the House right now. And Kevin McCarthy just got their debt ceiling bill just passed, right? And Dems really underestimated the ability for McCarthy to pass this, okay? I mean, like, we're talking about Hakeem Jeffries. Like, what is he doing except tweeting on Twitter or tweeting out stuff about MAGA Republicans on Twitter? Like, I've maybe heard 5 minutes of this guy on like C-SPAN. He might be on there more, but like, he's nowhere. Like, he's doing nothing. I've been so unimpressed with House Democrats right now, which is crazy to me because they're usually pretty lockstep.
The Democrats are in two modes right now: doing nothing or doing crazy. And the thing is, if they do nothing, you know, that's a decent strategy to let a lot of kooky candidates on our side lose the election for us, right? It's not a bad strategy. Like, look at locally, Maura Healey is doing nothing, and I'm saying that as a compliment. She is demonstrating to me right now that she is smarter than Warren and Pressley and Markey, because she recognizes that no, those are really bad ideas, and I'll give lip service to progressives, and I'll give lip service to this and that, but actually doing anything, no, just status quo. Just keep the status quo. Don't erode it. Michelle Wu doesn't get this, mayor of Boston. She's actually trying to do things that are actively bad and actively damage the city of Boston.
But we don't have like a Republican Party in Boston that like can really confront her, so she can do it. But it does end up it puts Maura Healey in a spot where she has to either, and you can tell that Wu and Healey don't really like each other, but it does put Healey into a spot that she has to either defend or be like, no.
But it's a decent spot because it's not as good a check as it would be with a Republican governor in office, but it's at least draws attention to what Wu is doing and the seeing the silence or hearing the lack of a response to the craziness that Warren, Pressley, and Markey are putting out there. It says something. And this is why, honestly, when you watch this show, we're ones that are going to talk about it more honestly. And there's a lot of libs and conservatives that watch the show locally. But you get it. And you're not going to hear this on Jim Browdy and Marjorie Egan. You're not going to hear it on WBUR or even Sue's show, which, by the way, Sue, you still owe me dinner. You're just not going to hear it. They're not going to talk honestly about it because they have to push an agenda. All right. I don't have time to squeeze the lemon. I got stuff.
But we do get that he ended up getting canned.
Yeah, it's nice. That's nice. and well, to Tucker would make fun of him so bad. It was enjoyable to watch him go Don Lemon and say and post a clip, show a clip of him saying something utterly inane and mind-bogglingly dumb. It was pleasurable. I'll miss Don Lemon if not for that purpose. He had no impact on anything. By the way, he was just fodder for us. His stupidity was fodder for us, and it was. And you will be missed, Don Lemon. All right, We have gone almost 50 minutes here. So time to go over to the Patreon where we got into the Ron DeSantis Trump primary, Disney, Bud, of which I'm a shareholder. I have too much money in those stocks. So only $1 a month. Go to patreon.com/RINOPod. Only $1 a month. It's the best value for your money in political podcasts. Please sign up today. We appreciate your support. And until next time, well, you'll be seeing us. All right. Have a good week. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.